Okay, so this is a video game review for Driver for the PC. This game was released in 2000 and made by GT Interactive, I believe. Now, if you've looked at the length of this video, then you'll notice it is quite long for a video game review. Kind of roughly normal length for my ones, but you know what? I wanted everyone who saw it to get a good idea of what this game, everything that this game had to offer, because I like this game. It's a good game. It's a very good game, in fact. And before I even go into the story, what it's about, what the mission structure is like, all that sort of stuff, I just want to, on a slightly philosophical note, I just want to say that this game is, for me, it's the definition of fun. I don't think you can get a higher accolade or compliment to a game, really, than saying it is the definition of fun. In my sort of experience, I don't come across many fun games. I come across a lot of engrossing games or relaxing games. So engrossing games would be a lot of strategy games that I play. You get into them. You might not say they're fun, they're just involving. Or relaxing games are things like shooters, such as Unreal Tournament 99 and Quake 3 Arena. All those sort of shooters, and Time Splitters definitely for the PS2 and stuff. They are just very relaxing and therapeutic. I would say Time Splitters actually is pretty fun, but as I said, most games I would say fail on that aspect. Very few games you something happens in a game and you end up grinning from ear to ear. This game though, and I want to point out that this is a driving game. This is a game basically about cars. I couldn't care less about cars. It's not my sort of genre, and yet a good game makes you enjoy it regardless of that, and this is certainly a good game. This has a lot going for it. So with that all said, let me actually get into the real meat of the review. So to begin with, what is the story about? Well, it's fairly simple. You play as Tanner. He's like a undercover cop working his way up through the criminal ranks in order to kind of bust these mobsters or whatever. I mean, the story's not really that important, partly, and I will kind of be showing you a little bit of the final mission a little bit later on, so if you don't want to see that, then at least you have been warned. But it's not, as I said, the story isn't really all that important, so unless you're kind of still playing it right now, then that shouldn't be much of a problem. You kind of progress through the game, and you end up getting stationed at these different cities. You have Miami to begin with, and San Francisco. Then you have LA and New York, and they all look really nice. I mean, the best ones are the first two. Certainly San Francisco is just perfect. And let me just say before I forget that the music is just it's really atmospheric. Maybe not the right word, but it sets you up in the 70s. It really does give you that 70s vibe. It's right on the money. Now, the mission structure isn't completely 100% linear either. You do get a choice to some degree about what missions you choose. A slight downside is you can't always hear what they're saying because the music level is quite high. Now, the natural thing to do is perhaps turn the music down, but if you want to just hear like a 10-second sort of spiel about what the next mission is about, then really you would hope that the default levels would be sufficient. So that's just a small gripe, as I said, but all the weather conditions, the look of the game is just great. I think the graphics are fantastic. Even for its time. One slight downside is the pop-up and the draw distance. You will kind of, if you haven't seen already, you'll notice in a bit, isn't great. They you can't really fully appreciate the cities that they've created, but I personally think that the graphics they definitely do the job, and also the layout of the screen, very important stuff. This kind of stuff, like your damage bar is big enough to see, big and red, and your felony bar is big and blue, and the counter is just this massive clock at the top, and your map. Everything is just very well laid out and simple. It's kind of like even if you're kind of visually impaired to some degree, you should be able to have a good old idea as to what's what, basically. So again, another mark of a well thought out game is, you know, how the layout is. It's not too cluttered, the screen, but it gives you the information that you need to know, which again is as I said, a mark of a good game. Now, one aspect of the game that I haven't mentioned is, and all people who have played Driver before will be kind of saying, well, why hasn't he mentioned it just yet, is the police. Now, you cannot talk about Driver without talking about the police. And if you talk to anyone who has played the game, then I'm sure that the first thing they will remember is the cops, the kamikaze cops. They just go for you with everything they've got. They, even for the smallest speeding, they will just try and ram you off the road. It's absolutely insane. It's hectic, and it's great. It really does work, and it's what separates it from games like GTA, which, you know, I've kind of gone with the whole sort of GTA series pretty much from the very beginning up to I haven't got the number 4 just yet, but yeah, and it's one of the things that makes GTA seem very tame if you played it right after this, because the cops just absolutely are insane, but it brings with it its own challenge and its own fun. And if it wasn't for that, then this would just be kind of like just mosey on through you know, various cities and stuff, and it wouldn't provide the level of entertainment that you get when they're really just trying to absolutely destroy you. And this is the final mission, when you have abducted the President of the United States, and he's just he's just kicking back in your car, and you're trying to drive across city with basically the whole NYPD after you. It's absolutely insane. But this brings me to the one biggest point in the game, and I'm going to have to talk about it very briefly, but it's a massive problem which will dock points from it basically in the final score, which is you cannot always save after every mission. It's a massive deal. I had a friend who I got into this game but just couldn't spend the amount of time that I did, and for that reason didn't progress in the game. There are some times when you'll have 3 missions back to back and you cannot save it. It's a massive deal, it's a massive problem, it's a massive oversight. But I won't mention too much about that, because I do want to talk about some other things, but you know, let it not be said that this game is perfect. Now, let's see, when you finish the game you get a whole bunch of, you can take a trip in all the cities, you unlock all the cities, you can play as a whole bunch of cars in the game, and they're quite nice. There's a decent enough selection, and you get a whole bunch of cheats like God mode here and super fast cars here, where just, you know, other cars just either get rammed off the road or just go through you. For some reason, lampposts have always been my nemesis in this game, and you can't really smash through them. But otherwise, it's there's a whole bunch of other games which I won't be able to wrap up in like the space of a minute, but basically they're chase games. They're games where you pursue a target, where you have like a maximum felony on you. There's a whole bunch of different things. You have to go through markers or whatever across a town like a race. It's just there's plenty of replay value with high scores and stuff, and this film director mode is just a really nice touch. They didn't have to put it in there, but they did. So it shows the love and care with the game, and they've also added like a Newcastle map as well, which is pretty small, but it's just kind of showing. I think that's where the developers were based or made the game or something. So it's just nice. And yeah, so this is a really simple game. All the mission structure is fairly simple. Go from A to B. Sometimes you have to, you know, kind of destroy like an opponent car sort of thing. Just kind of beat it up a bit. You kind of, you know, sometimes you have the police after you from the beginning. Sometimes they just kind of, it happens midway through the thing. But you know, this game doesn't try too many things, but it does what it needs to really well. And as I said at the beginning of this video game review, this is just the definition of fun for me. So if you do ever see this game, it's still playable. It's aged very well. It's just as good as it ever was. So in the end, I give this 8.2 out of 10. And that's me.